third year on the beat for NJ Advanced Media, NJ.com. And yes, he writes that they're the undisputed leader when it comes to high school sports. I cannot argue with that fact. They are everywhere. Kevin Minnick is everywhere, and he's right here on the radio on 97.3 ESPN. Good morning, Kevin. How are you, bud?
I'm good, Pete. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you. If you'd like, the platform is yours to say a few nice words about NJ Advanced Media and what they've meant for your career.
The platform is mine, huh? Well, I mean, it's like I've told many people, it is a top flight organization from the top to the bottom, and they are an organization that has shown me tremendous support in all aspects of things, and then that goes beyond what the work environment, I guess you could say. I mean, they have shown interest in other things that have happened to me during the course of these couple of years, and have always been there. So, in addition, like I said, in addition to being, I pat myself on the back. This is an organization that's the authority in high school sports in the state of New Jersey, hands down. You're not going to find ice hockey coverage anywhere else. You're not going to find gymnastics coverage anywhere else. You're not going to find, basically, if it is a varsity sport, it is being covered in one way or another. Now, obviously, some sports there's a little bit more emphasis on, but for the sake of argument, everything gets its due. So in that respect, it can't be touched. So and then local journalism is really the bottom line. You're not going to find, as I've said many times, you're not going to find what we do on television. You're not going to find what we do, anywhere else. It's what people should be drawn to, and I think the way it's being handled and the way it's done on a daily basis is second to none.
And Kevin, that gives me a chance to give a tip of the cap to your colleague Steve. It's Politi, is that right?
Yeah, Steve Politi is he is one of the premier sports columnists in the country, and he has, in the last couple of years that I've been there, that he's won some national awards, and I think people that haven't read him yet really should take the opportunity to read, because not only does he write serious stories on serious topics, but he's also takes topics and finds different ways to approach them, and different ways to a story. Just one example that really pops into my head is when he covered the Masters a couple of years ago, and he did a story on the he found the cleaner who's responsible for cleaning those green jackets. He found
I remember
he found
reading
a guy.
Yeah.
He found it, and he found a guy who basically stole some sand out of a bunker. And the story behind that and how that became a really big deal. So he does a lot of entertaining writing that you'll just laugh about, and then he does some very serious things that draw attention to different things. So yes, one just another member of the sports department staff who really does a great job.
Yeah, he's the winner. He's the New Jersey Sports Writer of the Year for the National Sports Media Association. And my former colleague and friend, Mike Frankel, is the Sportscaster of the Year. So that's a good 1-2 punch right there. The New Jersey Sportscaster of the Year, Mike Frankel, who's now working for Jersey Sports Zone. So he wins that award. I was a finalist for that award once, but I never won. Mike Gill was a co-winner of that Sportscaster of the Year award one time with Tom Williams. I know, like, for example, John Clark is the Sportscaster winner for Pennsylvania. I'm trying to see who the sports writer is. Bob Ford from the Philadelphia Inquirer. And, when they have the parentheses afterwards and it says 7 for the Pennsylvania Sports Writer of the Year, that means that he's been the award winner a few times. Well, I look forward to the day that the New Jersey Sports Writer of the Year is Kevin Minnick at some point, my friend.
Well, we'll see what happens. Maybe one day.
All right, let's get into a Saturday in January, which means basketball first and foremost. And we did talk a little bit with Mike McGarry in the first hour about Gene Allen, but you wrote a nice piece on Gene as well, as he is maybe today he tied it last night, maybe today could become the winningest coach in AC boys history. What's your relationship been with Gene Allen and your thoughts about him hitting this milestone?
I've known Gene for a while, probably not as well as a lot of other guys, especially Mike McGarry. But, Gene has always impressed me in that he's always been a straight shooter. And, he'll tell you exactly what's on his mind. And, if you don't like it, then it's kind of, tough. But, he's, when talking to him a little, just briefly about, becoming the winningest coach in Atlantic City history, and he really made it a point of emphasis that, it's not something that, while he is proud of it, while it is a nice honor, he's kind of just along for the ride. And a lot of coaches are that way too. They're not given the opportunity to enjoy the success if they don't have the people around them to kind of wrap it all up and put a bow on it, so to speak. He has had some nice administrators to work with. Frank Campo, the former longtime AD there, really probably has helped Gene maybe more than anyone else. And then the assistant coaches that he's had through the years, the guys that kind of take care of the odds and ends, so to speak. And then obviously you don't win games. You can be the greatest X and O guy in the world, but you don't win games if you don't have some talent. And obviously, there's a laundry list of talent that has come through that high school, through the years and past, over the last 17 years with Gene. He's had some tremendous talent, for a school that, you would think that Atlantic City has had more success, at the state level than it has. But they have 3 state championships, and they've all come under Gene Allen, and 3 other sectional titles. That would be 6 South Jersey titles, all under those titles under Gene Allen. So the man has really done a tremendous job. Getting these kids to come together, and I think that's probably the biggest thing is for a coach is to make sure that your team gets better from when it starts at the beginning to when it ends at the end, and to have your team playing, at its optimal level, at the end when games really become the if you lose, you go home. So, I think in that way, Gene has done a tremendous job, and coaches kind of want to deflect that spotlight, so to speak, but I think Gene should be able to at least enjoy the moment for one game when he does break the record, and obviously he'll have that opportunity today against Auden Reed Charter over in Philly. So if not today, the next game, but sooner or later, obviously I think sooner he'll have that honor.
Yeah, that's a non-league game, 2:00 today in Philadelphia. We're spending some time with Kevin Minnick from NJ Advanced Media. Make sure you follow him on Twitter, too, at Minnick Sports. That's KMINNICK Sports. Now, Kevin, I know it's not like the Sports Illustrated cover jinx, but you wrote a really nice piece about Overbrook basketball, and then they came to mainland last night and stumbled a little bit. Is it the Minnick jinx?
No, that's not the Minnick jinx. That's mainland, obviously, I think, being a little bit better of a basketball team. But, Overbrook, to that point in the season, their first 9 games, they were one of a very few undefeated teams still in the state. And, playing in the Colonial Conference is a little bit different than, I think, playing in the Cal. And the level of competition, no disrespect to the Colonial, but the level of competition is different. And they ran into a mainland team last night that's, I think, playing very, very well. So, I'm sure Overbrook will, it's not going to be the beginning of the end for them, I'm sure. But, there weren't that many teams that were still undefeated. So that, they fall among the ranks of the beaten at this point. But, they're going to be a decent team to watch in Group 1. They don't have a lot of depth. They only play 5. They only play 6, 7 guys at the most, and we'll see what happens with them down the line. But no disrespect to them at all. Mainland is a very good basketball team. Has been playing well. Had a couple of tough losses that have been kind of relatively close, I believe. So they're doing their job down there with Coach Williams. So just just a day where Overbrook ran into a team that probably was a little bit better than them.
Couple more for Kevin Minnick here on the Pete Thompson Show. First, basketball is, I know that you tweeted out next Saturday at RV is that annual Coney Classic, 13th annual, a great day of basketball, and you have that schedule retweeted out on your Twitter page at KMinnick Sports. And I guess basketball-wise, too, where are you headed today? I mean, what's your schedule for today?
Today's kind of a light day. I don't know. There's not a whole lot going on today. It's, in South Jersey, there's a couple of obviously the showcase schedule is pretty big up in the northern part of the state again today. But today we're just going to kind of take it easy. I think I'm probably going to go over to Delsea and check out Shawnee and Delsea. Two teams that I haven't seen this year so far. And Pete, what I like to do, at least in the first month and a half of the season, is kind of spread it around a little bit. And, there may be better games on a schedule, and I may go somewhere else because I don't want to be the gazette, so to speak, of a certain team. I don't want to be, their team, people thinking that that's the only game you go to. But so we kind of spread it around, and like I said, everybody has a story, and it's we're going to just try to find it, and today we'll find a story from that game in the one way or another, and it's just another opportunity to really kind of, I guess in a way, show the people of South Jersey, the people of New Jersey, the readers out there that we do look for more than kind of quote unquote the obvious.
Right.
I could go to every Camden basketball game. I could go to every game in the Olympic American, but that's not what it's about. It's about, getting out there and spreading it around and finding all the different stories there are. And because, there are various levels of basketball, there are teams that are clearly teams that will make a run for a sectional title. There are teams that will qualify, maybe win a game. And then there's going to be teams that, are below average, so to speak. But they still have kids that are out there practicing every day, giving what they have every day. So that's why we kind of spread things around, because when the playoffs start, we'll be seeing the, kind of the cream of the crop more often as the progression of the playoffs go on. So, like I said, today we're gonna hit two more teams we haven't seen yet, and take in that action and see what's going on down at Delsea with Shawnee.
All right, let's close with this then. Even though we're in January, earlier this week, the West Jersey Football League announced some of their schedules and crossover games. Anything jump out to you about that release?
What jumped out to me about that release after talking to a few people is that it probably shouldn't have been released. There are a lot of, while the divisions are set and those division games are locked in, there's going to be there's a few crossovers, that maybe have not been solidified yet.
Right.
There are other teams that are still looking for games, and, we'll now have to, go out and find some games. But, I think, in looking at the divisions, for the most part, I think it's fine. For the most part, I think the West Jersey Football League has continued to do what it set out to do when it formed, back about a decade ago, was to provide schedule relief, was to provide opportunities to play teams of similar school size, and to try to keep schools from having to travel long distances, on a Friday night or a Saturday morning. For the most part, I think that's still the case. Now, when that schedule came out and there were a handful of coaches were not happy. They weren't happy with the crossover games. They weren't happy with the distance they're going to have to travel. They weren't happy with the fact that that distance may influence the cancellation of JV games on a Monday. So from that aspect, I think maybe they forgot the reason why this league was formed the way it is. Now, if they want to change their approach to it, then go out and say, okay, well, guys, we're going to change it a little bit. We're going to focus maybe on a different couple different other areas, and maybe get away from the geography a little bit. People are complaining about the geography as really being the biggest factor in the whole thing. My take on that is, well, you wanted this relief before. And now maybe you don't need it as much as other teams possibly do. But we're not going to change the system, and it shouldn't change the system. So you know what? You know your schedule. You'll know it well enough in advance. Is it an inconvenience to you? Yeah, it might be. It might alter your schedule, so to speak, a little bit 1 week. But you know what? Suck it up and deal with it. At this point, it's basically what it comes down to. Yeah. You asked for this relief when things weren't going so well, and they helped you out. Now, you know, you're kind of on the other side of the scale, so to speak, I guess. So you got to live with it. And I think there's going to be some challenging games. I think a couple of those divisions are going to be extremely, extremely tough for teams. But you know what? Those teams are in those divisions for a reason, because they've proven themselves that they're capable of playing at that level. And based on history, those teams maybe are a little bit better than others. So we're going to put those teams together and see what happens. So for the most part, I think the West Jersey Football League continues to do what it set out to do. You're never going to make everybody happy.
Exactly.
And that's what we heard in this past week. We heard from those that are unhappy. We really didn't hear too much from those who are okay with things.